So welcome to our weekly ECONversations podcast here for Southwest Riverside County. It is my pleasure to have Mr. Scott Agajanian with the City of Murrieta, Ms. Kimberly Davidson with the City of Wildomar. We'll see if hopefully we have one of our other ED directors kind of join us here shortly. But want to get started in a conversation that I think is very important to every city. And that is kind of around the idea of, information studies and how that can really, especially when it comes to kind of retail studies and gap studies, that really help cities identify what it is that, is going on in the city currently, what you're looking for in the future. I know, Kimberly, you guys have just signed an agreement with Cosmont to do a study for Wildomar. Maybe you can kind of start and talk about that, how you got to that and how important it is for you moving forward to have that information.
Sure. So yes, we did just sign an agreement with Cosmont companies. In fact, I've received the draft research study just recently. And so we look forward to publishing a lot of those results and data points very soon. But it's very important. And what was so great about this study is it's really the first one that the City of Wildomar is only 12 years old. And during the majority of those 12 years, we've had a recession. We've had different avenues of revenue shut down by the state of California to the city governments. And we basically, for a good portion of those 12 years, we've just been trying to stay alive. And finally, Wildomar is to a point, I believe they got to a point in probably 2019, right before I signed on with them, that they were no longer just running in survival mode, but now being able to accomplish some things like getting an economic development director, enter Kimberly Davidson, and now doing the market research study. And some of these things were truly just, at the time before I came on, wish list things that they were hoping that they would be able to do at some point, but had not been able to do until recently. So that's one of the reasons why it was very exciting for Wildomar, because this will give us the data that we need. Kind of the way I put it in my staff report to council is I can contact developers all day long and tell them that Wildomar rocks. But if I don't have the data to back that up, that's really just me trying to convince, no hotel developer is going to plunk down $6 million on a hotel site just because the city told them it was a great thing to do. They want that data. They want to understand that there is data and there's numbers and that there is going to be the either tourism traffic or hospital traffic or whatever that traffic is for your city that is going to fill their hotel or retail center. And so this is going to give us the data to really show that. And kind of what you also alluded to, Patrick, is it's also going to tell us which parts of our baby is ugly a little bit faster too, because we all have, and that's a little term we use in the entrepreneurial world there. We all have, all of us in city government, and especially if we've lived in or around the cities that we love to work for, we've all had theories of what should go where, and we think we know what we're talking about until maybe we get that data back, and we might find that a particular retailer or a particular type of hotel, or maybe a hotel wouldn't go well in that site at all. Sometimes you really don't know that for a fact until you get the data back, and you can really look at the data and realize, okay, instead of focusing on this rabbit hole over here, the data shows that we would have a much better chance, or we really need, there's a big gap in this type of retail and we really need to focus our attention over here. So it really helps having the data really shows you where you need to be focusing your attention and resources also.
Yeah, and I think, it goes a long ways too for figuring out, like you said, is with a hotel, you don't just kind of say, build it. I guarantee you they're going to come.
Yeah.
You have to kind of show that, but you also have to kind of, be able to deliver that there's the other companies around it. There's the other daytime traffic numbers to help support all of those as well.
Right.
So, and then Scott, I know you do a lot of different reports such as that, but also some very specific reports based on, I know you've done the hotel study in the past and others. But I mean, talk to the importance of that for an area and how that is instrumental in making sure you get the right types of businesses.
Well, thank you, Patrick, and your beard. I want to start off by saying I really appreciate the fact that you wore the County of Riverside Medical Association shirt today, because you didn't want to just side with Wildomar or Murrieta. And that was very, very smart of you, because I know it would have been Murrieta, Kim. Sorry. Yeah. But he did go Riverside today, and then Rob didn't even show up for the call. So
I know.
Yes, we do a lot in the means of studies here, and I'm congratulate Wildomar on getting to that stage where you can start getting some real studies. First of all, what it does is it lends credibility, and I think that's a big part of what Kim was talking about. When I started here, we didn't have a current study. We had a very dated study as far as retail went. And what happens is you find yourself Googling information that anyone could look up and then not having trusted verified sites. That's not what you want. And that's not what Kim wants when she wants to, if you're going to invest in an economic development director like Kim, you want her to have all the tools and resources that she needs to be able to go out there and do the job. And that is a very, very important foundational tool that you need in economic development, is to have modern current studies by third-party independent verified that can really showcase the stats that are coming in. And then you get granular. Then you find out what you need from there. And in Kim's case, I think retail and for Wildomar is going to be a big driver, right? They've still got some retail fill-in to do, and they're still a growing and expanding city, and they're still bringing in rooftops, which means it's going to demand even more needs for the community. Murrieta is a city that has 5.5 million square feet of retail, right? So most cities of our size, you would think that we are done, and we're not that far from done. I mean, there's some few key spots that we're going to work on. But a lot of what we work on now is filling the spaces. Right now, we're fortunate. We've just had a nice drop in retail vacancy rates. We fell down to about 6.8%, which is relatively low for us. Usually, we kind of sit right at the top of the regional average. We're sitting a little bit below it right now. So we've been filling some spaces, and we have some big tenants that are coming in that are going to help us fill additional spaces. So we're feeling pretty good about where we sit from a vacancy rate, but it always helps to make sure that you have the current studies up to date just for when you start having a discussion with a new tenant. In our case, the latest one that we had is Floor & Decor, who's coming into the Murrieta Town Center. That fills an 80,000 square foot box. 80,000 square foot boxes are really hard to fill today because the number of organizations that can fill them is very, very small. You're working on a very small subset of the retail industry. So to be able to find tenants like that aren't in the region, that didn't fill one of your neighboring cities, that aren't too close, really is useful and beneficial. But they might need a certain kind of data, and we talked about this before. Everybody's looking at it from different instances. Some want to know what your demographics are. There are some retailers that simply want to know incomes and demographics. They want to know, what is your ethnic mix within your city and what is the income base within your city. There are some who get very, very detailed as to people's psychographics and what kind of shopping habits they have. Some are very interested in duration of stay and cell phone data that tells you how long they're coming to your centers and what kind of shopping that they're doing and what kind of spend they have. So it really does mix and depend on who your client is. And for Kim and I, we don't always know who our client's going to be, right? We're out there trying to draw in, and a lot of times we get requests from the community. This is one piece that I think you'll hear more often than not. We become like the request base, and hey, why don't you go get who? Yeah. Trader Joe's, everybody. Trader Joe's. That's who they want. They want Trader Joe's over and over and over again. But why don't you go get that retailer?
You could just call them. You just call them up and say, come to Murrieta.
Never thought of that. So, and believe it or not, we do call everybody, but there are certain times and opportunities where retailers expand in certain areas. And when you find new retailers coming out to the county, guess what? Myself, Kim, Gina in Menifee, Christine in Temecula, Justin in Lake Elsinore, we're all calling those people, right? When somebody starts to do an expansion into a new county, we're all going after them. And then it's got to come down to fit, location, demographics, and a whole bunch of other factors. In one instance, I might have a great location, freeway frontage that has just the ingress and egress that they want to see for their business, and that works out great. Sometimes I might have a location, but they hate it because it doesn't fit, it doesn't work. We have a empty retail restaurant space right now, and it has a co-tenant in the same building that isn't a match for the restaurant we were trying to put there. It fell apart because there's an existing building that has an existing tenant inside of it, and it's not a match for them. But Patrick and I, when we went to ICSC a couple years ago, we were speaking to a burgering and they wanted to be next to a Starbucks and we had a vacant space next to a Starbucks. It was a perfect fit.
Right.
In both cases, there's no talent involved here, people. This is what we're trying to imply to you. It's all data and luck. There is no talent involved here. We just happen to have the space or we didn't happen to have the space. And sometimes that's
The
best
talent is tenacity. I think that's what the talent is.
Don't stop.
The
Don't
talent
stop
is
till you get a
not
Trader Joe's.
taking no for an answer, and you gave a great example of that, Patrick, when you talked about Ira Spilkey and just going, sometimes you have to have the same conversation over and over and over with the same retailer that tells you no thank you, no thank you, no thank you. And then year 12, all of a sudden it's, well, okay, let's take a look. Why? I don't know why, but it's just, that's the skill, is just tenacity. But and to Scott's point too, just to add on to that, even if you do convince that retailer and they do want to come to your city and you have the perfect spot right next to Starbucks that they wanted, if they don't make a deal with that landlord, then the deal falls, there's so many opportunities for it to fall through that really the city has no control over. We can't control what the landlord is going to charge for either that lease or for a purchase. We have some property owners in all of the cities that have pie in the sky ideas of what their property is worth, and we cannot get them to change their mind about that. So that's the other frustrating part about it too, is when you do finally make that magic connection and then it falls apart because of either, the lease doesn't go through or something of that nature.
Yeah, the other part too is that the data is really good for, especially nowadays, is for developers, right? Because it's one thing to go out. I mean, we're talking about going out and attracting retail, but for developers to have that information as well and to be able to discuss that is critical, right? Because we talk about how, most developments nowadays can't sustain all that retail, right? So you've got to have these beautiful mixes of different types of retail with entertainment, with business and whatever that might look like. And so, developers, they know this, but they want to know it specifically to each one of the communities that they're looking at building in.
Well, Patrick, you're so right. And I really appreciate the Dodger blue you're wearing today. And I think one of the things you'll find, and it's funny how development mixes change over the years, right? For a long time, everybody's decided we have to have entertainment in our center. First of all, to fill the vacant retail space. Second of all, to be the draw, to give people a reason to come into the site. And now all of a sudden, entertainment's been slowed a little bit, right? So we're in a date and a stage where a lot of entertainment uses have been closed. And it's hard to see how that's going to be the anchor for the immediate future. Now, I think long-term, obviously, entertainment's a great anchor and it's going to bring back people, but we're probably not going to see that filling those sites for a long time, right? At least for the next couple of years.
Right.
And so people are going to have to reimagine the reimagining of what retail sites look like, because we just went through kind of a change, right? We just shifted away from, huge brick and mortar and large sites to people who are downsizing and looking for entertainment to fill those boxes. And that's probably going to shift again. And so it's really going to be interesting to see. I think one thing we're going to find out of all this is there's going to be a next generation of development. And your retail centers are going to look different with different size footprints. Your quick service is going to look very different. And that's kind of exciting to see what it looks like. Your restaurants are going to look different. And so what this next generation looks like and how it changes development is going to be very exciting to see.
And that brings up a really good point of what Wildomar is trying to do, since we're kind of the last ones to the table here. Temecula and Murrieta obviously are light years ahead of us at the moment. Menifee has really kicked it up a notch or two in the time that we weren't able to do that. And of course, Lake Elsinore is the oldest city that we have in this part of Southwest Riverside. So as we're a newer city, we're 12 years old. We have a lot of freeway frontage commercial opportunity in Wildomar, which right now looks exactly like the picture behind me that it's just open land. There may be a cowboy or two on it. But that's exactly what we're going to be mindful of as we move forward is, number one, we don't want to just duplicate what's already in our valley. We want to figure out ways to complement it. We want to the open developable retail and commercial areas that we have. How do we work with a developer? Do we have any visionary developers that can design the retail of the future? We certainly don't want a plaza with a bunch of big box stores in it, as much as that brings in retail sales tax dollars, but there's just not the big box stores to fill those type of uses anymore. Like Scott had said about the 80,000 square foot opportunity, they don't exist as much anymore. And we certainly don't want to build something that then cannibalizes what's in already Murrieta or Lake Elsinore or any of our other neighbors. So that's something that we are very mindful about in Wildomar, and we talk about all the time. We have turned down, they haven't been big box opportunities, but we have turned down some development ideas that would have brought in some retail dollars, but aren't within the vision of what we're looking to do going forward. Once you build it, you're stuck with it, so we want to make sure too, which should be good news for people who already, some of our business owners and investors in Wildomar. The good news for them that are there already is that we're going to work really hard to protect your investment and not just put in whatever comes easy and fast into City Hall and put that right next to your really nice development just because we can use up land and make some sales tax on it, right? We want to make sure that whatever we're stuck with for the next 20 to 40 years, that we're really proud of what we put in there and that it complements the rest of the valley and that it complements our Wildomar's theme and what we feel is the essence of Wildomar. Not even quite sure what that is right now. It's kind of one of those things that we'll know it when we see it, and we know what it isn't when we see it too. So we're definitely still working on creating our identity and seeing where that takes us. But just always, as a level of comfort for our neighbors, Wildomar loves being a good neighbor, and we just really want to make sure that we complement and partner and don't cannibalize while we move forward with our development.
I think, you both make a great point in that, Kimberly, kind of protecting, what is there and making sure it gets developed right. And like Scott was saying, is I think that there is a huge, unique opportunity right now because you have an industry that is, rethinking everything the way it is and the way it functions now. But I think that they're also looking at it as, they're not looking at it from just a, 2-year or 3-year, vision. Now they're thinking we have to look much farther down the road. We have to think of developments that are going to be able to, last, 30, 40 years now, as opposed to just, 10 to 20 years. Because we see that with the, a lot of the centers that are around here in Southwest Riverside County now that are trying to reinvent themselves. So I think that it's a unique opportunity and a great opportunity for Wildomar to be able to take advantage of these new thoughts and these new positioning of development.
Yeah, and you guys, by the way, have done a great job. We've been talking for a while about the firing range, which I think the region is excited about. Obviously Murrieta is a city that's got a very strong police department. Very excited to see a range come into town, and you're not seeing new construction in that front. So a lot of the places that officers and anyone in training goes to is somewhere that's dilapidated and old and far away. And so to see that new construction coming on, and then you guys have got a grocery outlet, and I've been telling Patrick for a long time, what I think is really neat and that people don't know is that they're in the same facility. And so it's a tactical grocery store where to get your groceries, you have to go through the firing range, get shot at, duck out of the way. Very, very strong concept. And you don't see concept development like that going on these days. So well done, Kim.
Yeah, you've been pitching that for
I've been pitching that joke for so long, and I finally found a chance to use it.
So yes, the shooting range, which is nowhere near the grocery outlet, will be a 2-story, 35,000 square foot indoor gun range, and has one lane that will be dedicated to public safety. And it is very exciting because we do need more opportunities for our public safety to go and train, and we're looking for the opportunity that will bring people into Wildomar and brings more people in on a daily basis to utilize our retail that might not have otherwise been there to eat in our restaurants or buy gas or spend money in Wildomar otherwise. So we're looking towards that being a draw, as well as grocery outlet that we're very excited will be opening on November 12th in Wildomar on Clinton Keith. If you really want those
maybe we can get them to
Cheetos,
do it with Nerf guns, okay? Just for
if you really
Scott,
want
we'll
those
figure out-
Awesome
Cheetos, you're
grocery
gonna have to dodge
concept.
some bullets.
Awesome
Yeah.
grocery concept. No, and that really, I think, ties into, let's talk about Wildomar and why it's special for a minute, because when you think about Wildomar, it's got a little bit more of a rural feel. You sit at the kind of the base of Santa Rosa Plateau. So you've got beautiful, nice hiking areas above you. You've got the firing range coming in. Obviously you've got a little bit of medical, and that's really cool. And then you've got the real boutique dining, which I think is a super kind of attractive piece to the city. So Wildomar didn't come in and say, we're going to cookie cutter like every other city did, right? Because everybody wants national chains and throw one after the next. And while Grocery Outlet's a national chain, it's a grocery store I want really bad and I don't have yet, and we're still looking at them. So it's a cool ad. And obviously, no matter what you have, people still need grocery. People still need gas, people still need grocery no matter what. But from there, you kind of get into these unique pieces where you've added a really cool, off the Clinton Keith exit on the southwest corner, some really cool little experiences in there. And then you get into your kind of your dining row there, and it's neat, it's exceptional, it's different. And so I think you guys should be very proud of what you've got going on. And while you can still grow and expand and add on to it, you're absolutely right. What you don't want to do is lose the feel that you've got going. And to me, feel of any environment is so important, right? People move into a place and they want to keep that culture. They want to keep that feel. They want to have an environment where they feel very connected to it. And not just saying that because, Murrieta's tagline is connected by community, but people want to feel like they know their home, and you guys have a real homey kind of feel. And so that's very
Absolutely.
good. And your businesses kind of buy into that. It seems like they're really a part of that feel.
You know what is fun? Thank you for all of that, Scott. I was meeting with a husband and wife. I was meeting with a husband and wife. Yeah, your check's in the mail, buddy. I was meeting with the husband and wife last week that are in the process of opening up a new independent coffee shop in Wildomar. And we were meeting at the former Bean on Clinton Keith, which is now called City Local. They quit their franchise and they're a true independent coffee shop now. And the general manager was there, and anyways, we were meeting out on the patio, and so these people are going to be opening up a new coffee shop about a mile away. Their new coffee shop's going to be on Palomar and Wildomar Trail over by the elementary school.
Oh yeah.
But they're not open yet, obviously. That's why we were meeting. So we had to meet somewhere else. It needed to be outside. So, and they love City Local. I love City Local. So we met at City Local. And I was actually talking to them at that moment about the Murrieta Wildomar Chamber and explaining to them how we have such a wonderful business community here, especially between Murrieta and Wildomar, and that there are no competitors. Everybody's friends. And in fact, the people who consider themselves competitors, they're the ones that don't join the chamber. They don't have that collaboration atmosphere. They don't join the chamber, so you don't have to worry about them. And literally, I had just said, we don't have any competitors here. Everybody is friends. Everybody wants you to succeed. You'll be surprised who comes out of the woodwork to help you start your business. And the general manager of City Local comes out and starts talking with us. Oh, you're opening a business? What kind of business? And they were like, coffee. And she was like, that's great. Like, she would have given them a hug if it hadn't been COVID times, And it just made me really proud because we do have, especially between Murrieta and Wildomar, we do have a synergy with all of our businesses. We have a lot of mom and pops, kind of to Scott's point. We have a lot of mom and pops in both cities. We have a lot of, and they're the ones that create the atmosphere for the city. They're the ones that set the tone and set the mood. And I feel like all of our businesses really look out for one another. They all help each other. I know that the new rival coffee place is in Murrieta is partnering with the scone shop. I mean, you see all of this all the time, and it's so cool. We're all friends. We're all part of the same family, really, is what it turns out to be. And it was just amazing that I had no sooner said this to them, and the coffee shop lady came out and was like, both of them were crying. Okay, the wife of the new coffee shop I was talking to and the general manager of the current coffee shop, they both start crying. This is so wonderful. And I was like, then I'm crying because I am there. And but it's really a nice, I think that's how our whole valley operates. And I think a lot of that is because we have so many independents and so many mom and pops. And the chamber and the city governments do get behind them and help them out. And it doesn't go unnoticed, and it doesn't go unnoticed by our residents, and it doesn't go unnoticed by a lot of people. And it's a much different business atmosphere here in Southwest Riverside County than I think you get in a lot of other areas of Southern California, or maybe even the country.
Too true. And you almost made Patrick cry there. I could see him wincing up a little bit. It was a beautiful moment. I'll give you an example of what Kim's talking about. We did 16 grants so far for our grant program. We're going to release on the 15th, which will come out after this video is released, so this won't do any good. But we're going to release the final 9 and come out with phase 2 of our grant program, which we're calling round 2. And the last one that we did a photo op with each one to announce the business and try to get people to come out and support the business. We bring the mayor in and do a photo op with a big check. And the last one we did was at a nail salon, which was just allowed to reopen. So we go into the nail salon and you have all of these ladies having their nails done in this little corridor, and we're there with the owner taking the picture, and they were cheering her on. They weren't upset that she was getting a grant while she had just reopened. They were so excited that she was getting money to keep her business, because they go there. They want to see that business stay open. And they know that it's been a hard run, and they know she's been closed down for months. And they know moving your nail salon outside isn't easy and is costly, and it's not really making you any money. You're just trying to survive. And to see the support that people are giving to each business to business, but also from resident to business, is really heartwarming. I think you've seen some really great stories right now. And Kim, you brought up Rival Coffee. I'll give a chamber shout out here. Met with the owner last week during the first week of being opening, and we were talking about some marketing plans. One of them is he's going to give away a free year of coffee on the radio. And I mentioned that the chamber had a great relationship with the local radio stations. And just this morning, I saw Mike and the owner emailing back and forth from the chamber, setting up the giveaway on air. So super cool. It just, you guys, and it doesn't matter what the request is. It can be the oddest thing. So people out there, go to your Chamber of Commerce, ask them for weird stuff. That's what they're all about. They're not into normal things. They don't
That's
want to
what I heard.
Yep, they're into weird stuff. Go ask them anything. They're here to help you, whatever the connection is.
I think that's a perfect way to end this broadcast.
Yeah. Keeping it weird. Keep your